to Dr. Terry Wahls today, who has done so much to advance the science in this area of diet and lifestyle and how it impacts MS. And she's got a unique opportunity for you to partner with her team to contribute to developing this area of knowledge. So listen in and see how you can get involved.
Well, hello, Dr. Wahls. I am so excited that I have you here with me. You are one of my mentors, even though you may not have known it, because I've trained through IFM and some other things that you've always lectured at. And me as a physician who lives with MS, who really has a big interest in this area, you are really just a giant who has gone through the hard work of creating the data that all of our doctors want before they're willing to talk to patients about nutrition. So I'm a little bit starstruck seeing you here with me next your Zoom picture next to mine. But we are here today to talk about the next great thing that you're doing. You are conducting new research, and we want to get more people enrolled in there to help us build that data. So do you want to start telling me a little bit?
So the study we're doing is called Efficacy of Quality of Life in Multiple Sclerosis. So it's EQD, and we're looking for people with relapsing remitting multiple sclerosis, age 18 all the way up to age 70, who are willing to come to Iowa City, Iowa 3 times. We need you to show up at month 0, month 3, and month 24. And the things that we're going to be measuring are your quality of life and mood and thinking ability. And we'll also, and those are survey questions. Then we will also be measuring your walking function, hand function, vision function, and your short-term memory as a measure of thinking. We'll collect some blood and saliva at each point. And we're also measuring your brain volume. And we're doing that with a special research MRI. So there's no gadolinium. It's a little more powerful magnet. And we'll be able to see your brain volume at the beginning and at the end, 24 months. And what's so exciting about that is many of your, I'm sure you know this, but many of your audience may not know that when we're diagnosed with MS, our brains begin shrinking, and our spinal cords shrink at 3 times as fast as will occur if you have healthy aging. And that's why we have such a greater risk for mood changes, anxiety, depression, irritability, and greater risk for cognitive decline and early dementias, early frailty. One of my theories is that by improving diet, we can help people get back to the same rate that we see with healthy aging. And so I'm super excited. That's one of our secondary outcomes, looking at what is the rate of brain volume change, what percentage of patients can we get back to healthy aging.
Beautiful. And what's the intervention that you will be doing?
Yes. So we have 3 diets, and the control diet is people just follow their usual diet, and we'll give them a monthly tips sheets on how to reduce the sugar, processed foods, and have more these radical things known as vegetables. The 2 intervention diets, one is the modified paleo diet. People know that as the Wahls diet. And the other is a ketogenic olive oil-based diet. We also combine that with time-restricted feeding. So people have an eating window of 6 to 8 hours. And they're going to be reducing their carbohydrates to less than 50 grams and having, we recommend 4 tablespoons of olive oil. The reason and this is a very different diet than the ketogenic diet that most people are reading about that stresses eggs, butter, and cream. It's very high in saturated fat. Our version is much more heart healthy. It stresses olive oil. And if people have high cholesterol, we tell them it's fine to avoid the saturated fats, and just really lean into the olive oil. So it's a much more heart protective, and we believe also brain protective.
And why is it important to also protect the heart if you have MS? Because we think of MS as like up here and the spinal cord.
Oh, yeah. Well, if you have multiple sclerosis, we have higher rates of metabolic syndrome, insulin resistance, prediabetes, overt diabetes, higher rates of atherosclerosis, heart attack, and stroke risk. So all of those disease factors that I just rolled off have excess inflammation, excess oxidative stress, higher cortisol levels, and we're beginning to appreciate they all have higher insulin levels and more insulin resistance. My point of view is that if you go all the way back to what are the root causes of those diseases and the root causes of MS, there's a lot of overlap.
For sure.
And if I'm creating an intervention for 2 years, and when I create my interventions, I look at creating health. And if we create health, we also find that we have a really wonderful treatment for chronic disease.
Yeah, the beauty of it is when you take something like nutrition or exercise and you institute that, it doesn't just help MS, it helps your risk of heart disease, lowers your risk of cancer. So this is the beauty of working at the root cause level, which we both know is really something that's
Yeah.
missing. Yeah.
You know, and I also say that all of my research studies, we go through the institutional review board, and I have to lay out all of the risks of the interventions I do, all of the benefits of the interventions that I do, and so as we're designing our ketogenic diet, we're having this big debate: do we use the ketogenic diets that other folks are studying? And I just couldn't do that because to me, those diets are increasing the risk for cardiovascular disease. And I'm like, no, we're not doing that kind of ketogenic diet.
Sure. And it probably wouldn't help MS as much anyways if you're heavy on the animal products and the saturated.
Correct. You know, and you know, we just completed a network meta-analysis that, and let me explain. I'm just super excited about this, Dr. Susan. Um, uh, since our work first began in 2010, there are now 12 randomized controlled trials of diet in the study of MS, and we've analyzed them. And by doing a network meta-analysis, you're able to compare all of the interventions one to another and rank order them from the most effective to the least effective. And there's a forest plot, and the middle of the line is where things are either helpful or harmful. And then you can rank out what diets are the most helpful for fatigue, for physical health, quality of life, and mental health, quality of life. The paleo diet and the Mediterranean diet and low-fat diet, which, by the way, we improved because we added more vegetables, were the 3 diets that were helpful for fatigue. And the 2 diets that were the most helpful for quality of life were the paleo diet and the Mediterranean diet. And when you look at these forest plots, the diet that is strikingly more effective than all the other diets is the modified paleo diet. And the ketogenic diet was sort of right in the middle, maybe helpful, maybe harmful. And so, and that's because, I think because those diets stress dairy and stress eggs, which can be very inflammatory for some individuals.
For sure. I mean, there's a lot of food sensitivities. There's a lot of even healthy foods that can cause inflammation in somebody with a disordered immune system. So
Absolutely.
yeah, just really paying attention to diet is important. And I love that you're doing this hard work because nutrition research is difficult to do. It's hard, it's a challenge to get people to adhere to a diet, but you're doing it and you've done it. And so now you're doing a randomized controlled trial, high quality study. And tell me about how much support people have to figure
Yeah.
out how to adhere to whatever they're randomized to, because it may not be a diet that they're familiar with.
Oh, absolutely. So you come in, we have all the baseline assessments, you get randomized. The people in the intervention arms, so the ketogenic arm, they will get a homegoing monitor to monitor their blood ketones. They'll also meet with a dietitian twice to review the diet, their current taste values to help them personalize, make this work for them. And then we have monthly support calls with them. People can submit questions. I make a video every month answering all of the questions that we share with everybody in the ketogenic arm. And then we have that group call. And I love the group call because that's where we answer questions and the participants get to talk to one another. And they love having the chance to have a peer-to-peer interaction. The newbies talk to the folks who've been doing it longer. The people who are more senior love being mentors for the newbies. And we have a group platform canvas where they can talk to each other, share recipes and experience. We similarly, in the modified paleo group, again, we have a couple sessions with the dietitians. The group calls, people submit questions, I answer them, and they have their group canvas. The control group, they can follow whatever diet they're on. And for them, we give them a monthly tips sheet, which has recipes, some cooking videos to help them improve their diet. And that information is based on what's available on the dietary guidelines for Americans. So that's stressing, less added sugar, less processed food, more of these radical things known as vegetables. So everybody gets some support. The intervention arms do get more personalized support than will show up in the control arm.
Okay, so they are to stay on this diet for the duration of the study, which is 2
Correct.
years.
Correct.
And what if they were already on a paleo or one of the study diets, and
Correct.
they're randomized to the control group where they can just be on
Correct.
any diet that they were already on?
Correct. So let's say you are already on some diet that you really like, Mediterranean, ketogenic, fasting pattern, a paleo diet. As long as you're willing to be randomized and then accept whichever diet that you are randomized to. So it could mean that you are on a Mediterranean diet and now you're on a ketogenic diet. You have to be willing to do that. If you are randomized to the control diet, you get to continue eating whatever diet you want. And if you read the research and you hear about some new, really interesting diet, you get to do that. And even if you decide, like, you want to become a vegan and you're on the control arm, you could do that. So the control arm gets to maintain their personal control. The intervention arm, we certainly want you to accept, embrace, and be on the intervention diet to which you've been randomized.
Yeah, and the control arm is really important to ensure that the study is carried out in a way that makes sense. Yeah.
It's so important when we go to publish this, and we'll be trying to get in the highest impact journal we can. So we'll be shooting to get into neurology or JAMA Neurology, and their standard is you need to have a randomized control arm in order to be in that study. And because it will include MRIs, it will be recognized as an incredibly powerful study because of that very scientifically rigorous design.
Beautiful. And how many MRIs are required for if you participate?
You get one the first day you come, so at month 0, and then when you come back at month 24, you'll have another one.
Okay, and you said no contrast, no gadolinium.
Absolutely no gadolinium. So and we're able to do that because it's a little more stronger magnet, than is used in clinics. It's a 1.5 Tesla magnet. In research, it's a 3 Tesla magnet. So we get a great look at the brain. And again, the big question is what's happening with brain volume at baseline and again at 2 years. And, it's my hypothesis that you improve your diet, we can get you back to rates of healthy aging. And Susan, I'm sure you know this, that the disease-modifying drugs, we have excellent drugs that can turn off enhancing lesions, that can turn off relapses, but have been very ineffective at slowing brain volume loss and have not been effective at preventing cognitive decline, have not been effective at reducing fatigue or depression. And that's why there is such a compelling need to have these high quality studies for diet, because we've been very effective at improving quality of life, reducing fatigue, improving mood, and also improving thinking, cognitive function. We've not yet had a study that's long enough to show are we able to improve brain volume, and I think we are because we've been so effective at fatigue, quality of life, and thinking.
And those are really important to any MS patient. So I love that you're doing this work because DMTs are important, but they're not enough.
They are not enough.
If we really want to have healthy brains, we have to use our other tools. And as you and I both know, based on our training, lifestyle and all the things that, we as doctors in integrative medicine or functional medicine are always telling our patients. So, and a lot of pushback I get from other neurologists when I talk to them about the work that I do with MS patients as well. Like, there's really no data that works,
Well,
and
we have great data. We have great data, and we just published in Neurology the highest impact MS journal. It's read by the most practicing neurologists who treat MS patients, that network meta-analysis. It came out January 24th. So Susan, go to Neurology, look for Dr. Titcomb. He was the senior scientist for that paper. Print it out and hand it out to your patients. Say, here is the data. Diet works.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think just from a common sense perspective, I think we all know that when we eat better, we feel better, we sleep better, we feel better. And yes, it's important to have studies that demonstrate it as well, but there are just common sense things that our moms, grandmothers tell us that we know are, real tools. So let's see. So I like the idea that there's no gadolinium, because that would have been one reason I may not have participated. But now knowing I can just go in and get an MRI, that makes it a lot easier, lowers that, barrier for me.
Correct.
And anything else do you think that people might have questions about?
So people, there's obviously expense coming to Iowa, and we do have some funds to help with travel. The limit is 500 miles. So if you're coming from further than 500 miles, we only are reimbursing up to that 500-mile distance. So yes, we have people coming from Canada. We have people coming from California. We've had several folks. We've had people coming from New York, Texas, and come be part of this study. There'll be 156 people. I believe we've consented about 70, so we're still looking for a little over 80. Susan, I'd love to enroll you. I'd love to enroll your followers, your tribe, help us get to 156.
I'd love to do that, because you're doing the really important work. And I think we as MS patients actually have a duty to help move that research forward. And this is how we can do it. Just giving our time and effort and to come in and do this work. Other than that, is there like diet journaling, or do we have to write down the foods we're eating?
if you're in the ketogenic arm, you're going to be pricking your finger a couple times a week to get blood ketones. You'll have a little monitor on your phone, questionnaire that I think asks 3 questions, maybe 4 questions about your diet. And we have you do a survey online that asks about the frequency of foods that you've been consuming in just the last month. You'll do that. And I will confess, I do not know at what frequency. I'm thinking it's at month 0, month 3, month 12, and month 24. And otherwise, you're doing questionnaires approximately every 3 months to let us know about your quality of life. And are you having any what we call life events? Let's say if you're in a car accident, or your appendix burst, or you broke your arm, or you had a bladder infection. We want to know those things.
Yep, sure. Those can also impact which way our MS goes. Yep.
Yeah, and we also want to know if you had, a new job, some other crises, your child or your spouse is having some sort of major health issue, because severe psychological stress will impact our disease course.
For sure, for sure. So, okay, so if people want to enter this study, we will link to it. And they just need to fill out a survey that tells them whether or not they're eligible or not.
Yeah.
And they can also reach out to your office if for some reason, they don't get.
You don't get in, you're certainly welcome to reach out, and Susan will make sure you have the study email. And Susan, I should add that I would like everyone with MS to enter and complete the survey, even if you don't have relapsing remitting, because we will be having studies where I'm writing grants. As a matter of fact, the deadline is tomorrow, for people with progressive multiple sclerosis. And so our current study that we're talking about today is for relapsing remitting. I anticipate that we'll be starting a progressive MS study, presumably within the next year. And so we'd like to get you in our disease registry. So when we are doing our progressive MS studies, we can reach out to you and email you and say, we've got a progressive MS study going on now. Would you like to be involved in that?
Yeah. And that's easy, just to fill out the form and, have your name in the database for future communication. Great.
Yes.
We will do that. Anything else you'd like to add, Dr. Wahls?
Hail to the kale.
Oh, I love that. And thank you so much for spearheading this. It's such important work. I mean, you are a testament to the power of lifestyle and what is possible when you open up your heart and mind to a different way of doing things. And I have never seen a patient change their eating habits to eating more clean, exercising more, sleeping more, managing their stress better. And they come and say, I feel worse. Has that ever happened to you? Never.
No. And people can say, I'm still struggling with walking. I'm not running, and I'm like, well, it takes a long time, and I can't predict for each individual exactly how rapidly your recovery will happen or how fully. But I can predict that if you don't improve your diet, you for sure will get worse more rapidly. If you improve your diet and your lifestyle, you can begin that healing. And I tell your audience that I'm now jogging in my neighborhood. I've gone as far as 2.5 miles. I'm very excited about that. But in 2007, I was so weak I could not sit up in a regular chair. And I was beginning to have brain fog. My trigeminal neuralgia was particularly horrific. I saw physical therapy 3 days a week for 4 years. Very intensive physical therapy to begin walking, biking, and hiking. And I continue to see physical therapy even still. It's wintertime, so now I'm jogging on my treadmill. But when spring comes, I'll be back jogging in my neighborhood. And the jogging happened just this year.
So you're continuing to make
So
progress.
I'm continuing to make progress, and I'm continuing to work at it, work really hard. And I continue to work with my physical therapist. I'm still doing electrical stimulation of muscles a couple hours a day. And, you know, I don't know if I can run marathons someday. Wouldn't that be cool? Maybe. We'll
That
see.
would be so cool. So cool. Yeah. I mean, it was the same for me. I couldn't run for 7 years because my arm would just turn into lead. But, it just took time, and just knowing that if I just keep doing the good work, I don't know where I'm going to end up, but I think I'll be in a better place. And I love that you
I
talk
think
about.
that is key. You do the good work, I'll be in a better place. I don't quite know where that will be, but now I can keep putting the goalpost a little further along. First it was, could I jog? Like, well, I guess I can, and now I'm like, well, maybe I could do fun runs. Maybe, a 5K, a 10K is ultimately going to be possible.
Well, why not? There's nothing that says that it can't. If it happens, it's wonderful. And if it doesn't, you're still running 2 miles a day.
I'm still running. I'm still out, feeling the breeze on my shoulders, seeing the sunshine, and having just so much joy.
I think joy is just such an important word for us to embrace, because it's about how do we find more joy in our life. And sometimes it's with being more physically active and exercising, having less pain and symptoms so we can engage with our loved ones better. All of those things are joy.
Yes, sometimes it's just picking berries with the little people in my lives.
Yep.
You know, it's
It's the best.
it is the
Well,
best.
thank you so much for the wonderful work that you do. Thank you for being such a wonderful example of what's possible. It's really inspiring.
Thank you so much.